on February 10th of 2022, quite possibly the worst day of my life occurred. I got the call from my oncologist, and they found a mass on my pancreas. And I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old. Scared is an understatement. So, after finding out, I started treatment right away, consisting of oral chemo and radiation. However, it also spread to my blood and is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. This comes down to my brand of chemo, which is oral chemo. I got really lucky with that, so thank goodness, fingers crossed. That's something to be so grateful for. In the cancer world, eventful is not good. A break until the next round of chemo, but sometimes it's hard to think like that when you're in so much pain and discomfort and everything is just going the wrong way.
The 19-year-old accused of lying about having cancer on TikTok and scamming well-wishers out of tens of thousands of dollars.
With this being said, I was also tested to see if I would develop type 1 diabetes and see if I was positive for any of the antibodies. So when the test came back, I ended up being positive for all 5 out of 5 antibodies. And in February of 2020, I was also diagnosed with type 1 at 17 years old. Fast forward to February of 2022, I had yearly lab work done just with my primary care provider as a standard checkup. And aside from starting to feel just a little bit off, my lab work came back and my white blood cell counts were not in normal range. So further testing was then done. And on February 10th of 2022, quite possibly the worst day of my life occurred. I got the call from my oncologist, and they found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old. Scared is an understatement. I was terrified, and I definitely still am. So after finding out, I started treatment right away, consisting of oral chemo and radiation. So far, I have completed 8 rounds of chemo and over 50 rounds of radiation. Then at my 3-month scan, I was informed that the tumor on my pancreas was shrinking and it was responding to treatment. However, it's also spread to my blood and is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The 5-year outlook of survival is a slim 11%. 11%. At 19 years old, I don't know if I will live to see the day when I graduate college, get married, become a mom, etc. So in the meantime, I fight. There is a mental health crisis in America right now, and I want to touch on the impact that cancer and chronic disease patients can go through. When your life changes in an instant and many days are spent vomiting, in pain, and being restricted with what you can do, your mind's sick. It's a very lonely and isolating disease. So please don't take for granted enjoying every moment in your life, even the little ones. Please check in on your friends that seem strong, as those people are often the ones that are struggling the most. They appear like they carry it well, however, they are being weighed down. If you look at me, you would never know that I am sick. I still have hair, I can put on makeup to hide the exhaustion and the pain, and I carry myself fairly well at work and school. I want you to know that invisible illness affects so many people across the globe. You could look at somebody from the outside and think they look healthy, but you don't see that inside their body is literally trying to destroy them. I have been honored to speak to my school about my experience of battling cancer, still finishing out my semester with a 3.85 GPA and landing an internship with one of my dream companies, John Deere, all while taking treatment. Advocating for other patients and inspiring individuals along the way has been a coping mechanism for me, and I hope this story has inspired you as well. You know, when you get knocked down 9 times up, you stand up 10 more times. Every single day, I go to war with myself because in order to survive, I have to fight like hell. Type 1 diabetes does not define me. Pancreatic cancer does not define me. Leukemia does not define me. And I will ring the bell and be declared cancer-free.
This is 19-year-old Madison Russo. She went to St. Ambrose University and was a spectacular student, an all-American girl. After a family member was diagnosed with diabetes in 2020, she went to get tested herself and was told she also had type 2 diabetes. After that diagnosis, in February of 2022, she went in for blood work and a checkup. On February 10th, she was contacted by her oncologist with the results of those tests. She was told there was a mass on her pancreas, and she was diagnosed with stage 2 pancreatic cancer. So, she began treatment, which included oral chemotherapy and radiation therapy. 3 months after the oral chemo and radiation therapy treatments, she received some good news. The tumor on her pancreas was shrinking, but the good news wasn't celebrated for long because apparently the cancer had spread to her blood. She was now diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and she had a football-sized tumor on her spine. So, her pancreatic cancer was being cured, but she was growing tumors elsewhere. The chance of Madison surviving this cancer was only 11%, and at the age of 19, all of this was a major shock and very upsetting news for her. As she stated, she feared not making her graduation or living long enough to fall in love and get married and have a family. Something good had to come out of this diagnosis, she thought. So, Madison wanted to share her struggles with being diagnosed at such a young age with terminal cancer, and she wanted to showcase the mental health struggles that came with having a condition that's hard to see. She claimed she looks perfectly healthy and normal in her everyday life, and no one would know the struggles she was going through with cancer if they just ran into her on the street. She wanted to help end the stigma surrounding invisible illnesses and advocate on behalf of those struggling with both an invisible illness and the mental health struggles associated. She began posting all of her test results, treatments, the struggles associated, and advocated on behalf of others who were diagnosed with cancer and facing mental health issues. She was invited to speak at her school and elsewhere, and eventually a GoFundMe was opened to help her with the medical bills. In the USA, you have to pay to stay alive, and cancer treatment is very expensive. The support poured in to the tune of $37,000, and Madison kept everyone updated on her struggle. January 9th, 2023. Overdue update. Maddie's cancer has been progressively getting worse and has spread all over her body, including throughout her blood and also on her spine. She has tried everything and given it her all. Chemo, radiation, and other methods have no longer helped. She has decided to start a clinical trial drug to see if this could be a miracle and put Maddie in remission. The process is unfortunately not short and will be years ahead. Yet, she is still smiling, even with feeding tubes and IV poles. Maddie thanks all of you for your continued support and prayers during this time, as she wants you to know how grateful she is for each and every one of you all. She says she wishes she could just go and give everybody a big Maddie hug and individually thank each person. Without this support, she would not be where she is today and couldn't have made it this far. Here's to the greatest comeback story ever and a miracle in 2023. Those who supported Madison looked forward to the updates. People from all over the world wanted to see Madison's resilience and help her advocate and end the stigmas associated with invisible illness and the mental health struggles that come with it. Most importantly, everyone wanted to see Madison get better and reach remission. What they didn't know is technically Madison had been in remission this whole time. In fact, Madison wasn't diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and she was never diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Madison didn't have cancer at all. She was lying. She was manipulating everyone, all for fame and fortune.
The 19-year-old accused of lying about having cancer on TikTok and scamming well-wishers out of tens of thousands of dollars.
Investigators say Madison Russo took more than $37,000 from Maddie's fight against pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about my hair. Like, you look so good. Like, how are you keeping your hair? It just comes down to my brand of chemo, which is oral chemo. I got really lucky with that. So thank goodness, fingers crossed. That's something to be so grateful for. In the cancer world, eventful is not good. I'd rather have an uneventful week because it means you're kind of just coasting along. But I've had a little bump in the road. So it's my week off chemo. So I've just been doing radiation. My week of chemo is done after, round 3 is done, and I get, a break until the next round of chemo. But sometimes it's hard to think like that when you're in so much pain and discomfort and everything is just going the wrong way.
While tons of support poured in for Madison, some people found several discrepancies in the information she was posting on social media about her cancers and her treatments. You see, Madison never lost her hair and claimed to have underwent 15 rounds of chemotherapy and 90 rounds of radiation therapy. She also claimed that while doing this, she was maintaining a 4.0 GPA, holding down a part-time job, and even went golfing in her spare time. She was posting all of her treatments on social media, and in January, witnesses claiming to be medics contacted police, saying they noticed many medical discrepancies in Madison's posts discussing her cancer journey. Some of her videos on TikTok did not look right. Court documents state that witnesses were said to have observed life-threatening inaccuracies of her medical equipment placement on her body. One TikToker user posted a photo of Madison smiling while hooked up to a gastrostomy tube and pointed out that it was too far up her nose and a chest port appeared to have been wrongly applied. So on January 11th of 2023, Madison Russo's downfall began. In the course of the police investigation, detectives learned that Madison had stolen photos shared online by real cancer patients and had passed them off as her own to bolster her bogus claims. A search of her home in Bettendorf, Iowa, turned up a trove of evidence, including an IV pole with a feeding pump filled with cotton swabs, a wig, and anti-nausea medication prescribed in a relative's name. The worst part? Madison's medical records, subpoenaed by the police, revealed that she had never been diagnosed with any form of cancer or tumor at any medical facility in the area where she has ever been a patient. She never had cancer, and now everyone knew, including the police. Articles were being released discussing how she lied, and Madison was looking at theft charges and a possible 10-year prison sentence.
It's been a little eventful week. In the cancer world, eventful is not good. I'd rather have an uneventful week because it means you're kind of just coasting along. But I've had a little bump in the road. So it's my week off chemo. So I've just been doing radiation. However, I've kind of came down with this fever. This is really weird because I don't feel like sick. I don't really have like a cold or like sore throat, any of the other symptoms. I don't have COVID. I don't have any of that. I just have this like nagging fever and kind of just like that feeling of being like like run down and stuff like that. So finally I got labs taken, and my lab results came back yesterday afternoon, and it showed that my ANC and white blood counts, those two like run together, was really low, and it's most likely coming off of the chemo from last week. And then, your immune system is still weak because you have like no immune system when you're going through treatment. So then I have a fever, and it's kind of explaining, and hopefully that's the full cut answer. So I had to skip radiation on Monday. I'm just keeping it real. It's days like these that are hard, and I try my best to stay positive and think that, after my chemo was, after my week of chemo is done, after, round 3 is done, and I get, a break until the next round of chemo. But sometimes it's hard to think like that when you're in so much pain and discomfort, and everything is just going the wrong way. And it's just kind of, I just have different mixed emotions. And, with my hair and stuff like that, that's obviously a big fear. Obviously, as a girl, it's, girls, like, hair is a big part of everybody's lives. But to think of the potential of losing it, or it's just kind of one more thing in the fire that is hard. So hopefully nothing else falls out. And still doing round 3 of chemo. And I'm not gonna lie, it has been a rough night. As you can probably tell by my appearance, it's not been fun. I haven't really slept all night. I've been puking all night. I feel so weak, so just like kind of like woozy. I've kind of been puking up until the morning as well. And I was supposed to go to radiation this morning, it being a Wednesday morning, and I'm just keeping it real.
What the fuck?
Woman facing theft charges after police say she stole more than thousands of dollars with false cancer claims. Police arrested 19-year-old Madison Russo Monday morning. As you see on the screen, that's her. She's suspected of stealing over $37,000 from more than 439 donors. She claimed to have stage 2 pancreatic cancer. An investigation from police found that the claims were false. She was released from Scott County Jail on a $10,000 bond.
On January 23rd of 2023, Madison was arrested and taken into custody by the Eldridge Police Department. Madison faced other consequences for her actions. Outside of social media, she had given several interviews about her supposed illness and was a guest speaker for St. Ambrose, as well as cancer-focused organizations like the National Pancreatic Cancer Foundation, Project Purple, and the Owl Foundation. Madison was featured in the North Scott Press newspaper on October 18th to tell her cancer story as well. She also accepted private donations from other businesses, nonprofit organizations, school districts, and private citizens, many of them who are upset by her actions today. She had eventually raised over $37,000 from empathetic donors on GoFundMe based on the lie she had cancer and needed the money to help with her treatment. After she was arrested, however, GoFundMe released a statement and refunded everyone who had donated to her and removed her page from their site. They stated they had a zero-tolerance policy for misuse and were cooperating with law enforcement. They also stated, and I quote, "All donors have been refunded and we have removed this fundraiser. The beneficiary has also been banned from using the platform for any future fundraisers. GoFundMe's Giving Guarantee offers a full refund in the rare case when something isn't right. This is the first and only donor protection guarantee in the crowdfunding industry." Yeah, that was written by their PR team for sure. The National Pancreas Foundation also shared a statement with ABC News about the ongoing investigation. They said, "The National Pancreas Foundation does not condone the actions of Maddie Russo regarding her deceit to fraudulently secure donors for her false cancer diagnosis. There are thousands of patients, families, and caregivers battling this terrible disease, and Miss Russo's actions have taken away valuable resources from these patients." The statement was given by their CEO, David Bakelman. A court date was set for Madison to be charged with theft due to her stealing over $39,000 from donors and the public. Dr. Peets was a court-appointed doctor who was to look at Madison Russo and decide if she was fit to stand trial. Dr. Peets interviewed Madison for more than 4 hours, doing multiple tests on her. Dr. Peets says that Madison has no mental health history, no criminal history, no childhood trauma, or substance abuse. Dr. Peets said that Madison was not a criminally minded person and agreed that she is a good candidate for deferred judgment. Now, remember this information. Madison has no mental health history, no criminal history, and no childhood trauma. Madison's lawyer tried to have the judgment deferred. One of the donors to Madison's campaign told station KWQC that she was shocked when she learned of the teen's arrest. Everyone was saddened by the news that Madison Russo did not have cancer, but she was released from jail on a $10,000 bond only 4 hours after her arrest. Her court date was set for March 2nd of 2023.
I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together.
To the defendant's plea of guilty to the crime of theft in the first degree in violation of Iowa Code Section 714.1, 2, or 3, and 714 and 702.91, and pursuant to Section 902.3 and 902.9 of the Code, it is the judgment and sentence of the court that you be committed to the custody of the Iowa Department of Corrections.
In March, Madison had initially pleaded not guilty to the theft charge stemming from her elaborate con, as part of which she pocketed donations from more than 439 unsuspecting well-wishers, including cancer organizations and school districts. Court proceedings in June show Madison changed her plea to guilty in a plea deal. During this time, the judge also authorized authorities to seize any assets connected to her. On October 20th, court was called into session shortly after 9 a.m. Judge John Talene presided over the court, with defense attorney Andrea Jaeger representing Madison Russo, who did attend, of course. Scott County State Attorney Kelly Cunningham represented the state. Cunningham went over the details of the case, which includes a charge of theft in the first degree, a Class C felony. The state recommends a deferred judgment of 10 years in the Iowa Department of Corrections, with 2 years of supervision. Cunningham also says that more than $39,000 of restitution has been paid and is being held in trust. Madison was given the chance to speak at her sentencing, and this is a bit of what she had to say.
A lot of people have made speculation as to why I did this and how somebody who looked like they had everything together could have such a mess. I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together. I come from an extremely broken and separated family ever since I was 2 years old. Over the years, it has gotten steadily worse, and a lot has happened internally to our family. A family is supposed to be one that's drawn together, not drift further and further apart. I was always told that
quote, I was the only one that could fix it. And I have tried for years. Nothing was working, and I kept pulling for everybody to be a normal, functioning, loving, supportive family. I thought if I said what I said, it would make everybody pull together.
You lying?
As you heard, Madison blamed this on childhood trauma, which the doctor stated she did not have. Remember I told you to remember that? She claimed she had had a decent reason for committing this cancer fraud scam, and it was to bring her family closer together. She doesn't appear to be that remorseful, and most people were unimpressed. Still, the judge was pretty lenient on her. Some still feel she was sentenced accordingly, though.
Ms. Russo, ma'am, in sentencing you, it is my duty under the law to look at the seriousness of the crime, the effect that the crime has upon members of the community, your willingness to accept change in treatment, and what's available to me in the community to assist you in that process. The law directs that I do look at the least restrictive alternatives first and then proceed to the more restrictive alternatives. I consider what an appropriate rehabilitative plan for you would be, but I also must protect the interest of the public. Certainly, I am bearing in mind again that you are very young, that you have no prior criminal history. For those of you in the audience that might not know what a deferred judgment is, it allows the court to defer making a decision on the appropriate sentence for a period of probation. For those reasons, I am not comfortable and will not grant a deferred judgment. Pursuant to the defendant's plea of guilty to the crime of theft in the first degree in violation of Iowa Code Section 714.1, 2, or 3 and 714 and 702.91, and pursuant to Section 902.3 and 902.9 of the Code, it is the judgment and sentence of the court that you be committed to the custody of the Iowa Department of Corrections for an indeterminate term of incarceration not to exceed 10 years. And you shall pay a fine of $1,370, which is not suspended. The Iowa Medical and Classification Center at Mitchellville, Iowa, is designated as the reception center to which the defendant shall be delivered by the sheriff. However, for good cause shown, the sentence just announced is suspended and the defendant is placed on probation with the 7th Judicial District Department of Corrections for a period of 3 years. The terms of the probation will include that the defendant pay the restitution is in full, that the defendant commit no other crimes, and that the defendant perform 100 hours of community service towards the community service volunteer work that is to be selected by the probation department. I was inclined to specifically name a charity or an organization, but that might arguably impose some burden on that organization as well. So I will not specify which organization. The defendant is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $39,385.79, payable as indicated in the order filed in this case on July 12, 2023. The law presumes that the defendant has the reasonable ability to repay Category B costs. Category B costs are costs from the clerk of court and court-appointed attorney's fees. I am going to defer further hearing on the amount of Category B restitution pending for 30 days, pending clarification of this. Ms. Yeager, I believe you are privately retained.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so there will be no restitution for court-appointed attorney's fees.
Correct.
Other than appeal rights and bond, have I left anything out?
No, Your Honor.
As of right now, Madison Russo is free, although on probation, and tons of people are heartbroken. One of the donors has stated that donating to this campaign and being deceived by Madison has ruined their trust in others, and they are unsure if they want to donate to anyone ever again. Some people felt Madison showed no remorse and should have spent some time in jail due to the severity of the fraud she committed. $39,000 is a lot of money, and a lot of people on social media think she got off easy. Tell me what you think down below. Do you think Madison Russo's victims got proper justice in this case? Let me know. If new information on this is made available in future, I will be sure to give you an update. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Thanks so much for your support and have an awesome day. Remember, cancer is something that affects almost everyone across the world. If you fake having cancer and scam people out of cash, karma will come for you.
I'm just keeping it real.
What the fuck?
I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention.
You lying?